Welcome to the show, everyone. As you know, I always like to talk about everybody else but myself on my show, and that's what we're doing today. We're gonna have some fun. We're also, I've got my first guest who's been on with me well over 5 years. I have with me Anna Von Straussenburg. She is the owner of Anna Von Straussenberg CPA. Perfect timing to be on because it's tax season. Welcome back to the show. First of all, we always have to talk a little bit about you and what you do, and then we're going to kind of go into some of the other things that we're going to talk about today. So welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me here. I kind of call myself a backdoor accountant because I actually had a degree in liberal studies because I had this intention of becoming a teacher. I actually worked for a school for a while, and I just got frustrated with it was a school for developmentally disabled, and there was so much red tape, and it didn't pay well. It was a difficult job, and finally my husband said to me, you know what, you should quit that job and go get a different job. And I said, but I'm not qualified to do anything. He said, you're more qualified than you think. He goes, you do our family budget on a spreadsheet. Who does that? You balance our checkbook to the penny. Who does that? An accountant does that. That's what you need to do. So I went and got a job at an accounting firm, and I went back to school and started studying accounting. And I finally made myself a goal that I was going to become a CPA by the time I turned 40. And so I completed all my coursework, and you kind of have to do an internship to become a CPA in California. So I completed all that and submitted the form to get my CPA the week of my 40th birthday.
And you did it.
And got the certificate 2 months later. So I was very excited about that.
Well, let me tell you something about Anna. First of all, she's all about excellence and integrity in accounting. And if there's one thing that I've learned about you, is you cannot tell a lie to save yourself.
Oh, no, I can't. I think it was my upbringing a lot. My mom, she always would say, she had a saying, the truth will always out. So just don't lie.
Right.
And so I'm very truthful. So if I make a mistake, I'm the first one to admit it. I'll call up a client and say, hey, we just discovered a mistake. We'll fix your return free of charge. Mm-hmm. And if there's any penalties, I will pay it. And we're human beings, mistakes happen, and unfortunately even software makes mistakes. We found one of the pieces of software we were using made an error and cost my client some more taxes, but I paid her penalty. So.
But you're the only one that would find the mistake from the software. That's the kind of person she is.
Yeah, we were transitioning to a new one, and when we were doing the transition, we found the error.
Well, I want to talk about tax season because you know what? It's right around the corner. Oh my God, can you believe it's already almost April?
Oh, yes. And this is a time of year that people need to get their stuff in and get it in now because right now I've got probably about a 3-week backlog because I've had a lot of people bring in their returns. So, I tell people to get, the deadline is kind of the second to last week of March, so it's coming fast.
Now, you work with people, you do free consultations, you work nationwide, you're rated with the Better Business Bureau, you also do second opinions for people that might need that. Her phone number to call is 480-964-4030, that's 480-964-4030. It's Arizona CPAs with an S.com. Let's talk about extensions really quickly since we're talking about taxes.
Okay, well, the business taxes are coming up, the partnerships and S corporations. There's nothing to do with the extension because those are called flow-through entities. But then the individuals, that is coming up April 15th, and those returns are extension for time to file, but that's not an extension of time to pay. So if you owe taxes, you should pay them, or even if you think you owe taxes, you should pay them. And that's where we come in. We'll do a projection for a client and get a rough idea, even if they don't have all their documents ready. We'll try to get a rough idea what they're going to owe. And in the case of somebody that pays in estimated tax payments, we'll kind of pad it a bit because then we can just carry over the extra to their next year. Mm-hmm. So there's strategies involved in doing an extension. So.
Right. Then everybody listen up. The other thing that we want to talk about too, really quickly, is people doing these on their own, right? A lot of people do, a lot of people shouldn't, right?
Mhm.
Most people are the ones that think that they know what they don't, they're what they're doing, they don't.
That's true, and it's funny, one of my clients said a line that you often say is, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And it's so true, because people will try to file their own tax returns, and I have never found a tax return that I've gotten given a second opinion on where I didn't find errors. And I have to tell you, most of the time, I find the people additional money. I had one person that did their own return, and they were actually in a lot of trouble with the IRS because they did it so incorrectly that they owed more money. But we fixed the return for them, and I tried to give them some advice in order to reduce their amount of tax owed, but they didn't want to do the legwork to do that. But, you know, there's that saying, you can lead a horse to water.
You can't make him drink it.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about refunds that are now going to have to be done electronically.
Yes, the IRS is transitioning. They want people to not only get their refunds direct deposited to their bank account electronically, they also want to receive payments electronically, and they have a program they're starting to implement. They actually, several months ago, when they were Congress was passing new laws and making new things for the IRS to do.
I was going to say headaches for people.
Yeah, they wanted to make that start right then and there, but then the IRS said, well, wait a minute, not everybody has that ability. So we need to take a step back and, figure out how to make this work.
So how do people do it if they can't?
Well, when I do somebody's tax return, there's a place on the software where I can put in their bank account information and just have it automatically deposited. And I do have a few clients that will make the electronic payment, and I can, again, do it right through the tax return software, so it's very easy. They can be done through the IRS.gov, but it's not as easy as you think it might be. So they want you to set up an account, and they want you to jump through all these hoops to do it. So when you do it with me, you don't have to do that.
Well, this isn't coming up, so you need to know how to do it, and if not, you could call Anna. Her phone number is 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. She does free consultations. She works nationwide. She's rated with the Better Business Bureau and does second opinions. And when I've talked to you about this before many times, about you need to have somebody who's making a lot of money or in a big business. You work with all sorts of people and all sorts of businesses. Let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah, I've had some businesses that started with me, and I helped them grow. We corrected some of their bookkeeping problems and got them on the right track, so they knew where they were going financially. So, and I want to mention something you mentioned I was rated with the Better Business Bureau. Well, I just got an email saying that I've been nominated for the Ethics Award.
Oh my gosh, again, that's awesome. Well, congratulations. We'll talk about that when we get back.
Yeah.
Again, you can check her out on her website. It's ArizonaCPAs.com. Write the number down, because this is tax season. You're going to need it. If you have not gotten your taxes ready and together, you really need to do so. Please, if you're going to get an extension, make sure that you do also pay your taxes that you owe ahead of time. Make sure you do that. The number to call again is 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. It's Arizona CPAs with an S.com. Hang tight. We'll be back in just a minute.
So yeah, it's very exciting. So,
that's awesome. Again.
Yeah, I'm hoping to make it into the finalists this time.
Congratulations, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
It is a big deal.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's turning out to be an exciting tax season.
I
picked up
never
some new.
heard that before, an exciting tax season.
Well, it's exciting that I picked up a lot of new clients, so.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fabulous.
And
I'm happy for you.
And the young gentleman that I hired to kind of fill in some of the gaps is doing very well, so
You
I'm
see
I'm
how
very.
things are turning around?
Yeah, so things are turning around, and I'm finally getting through the pile of stuff on my desk. Unfortunately, still have about 200 emails I have to do some kind of action on. Those are not even ones I read and clear all my emails every day, because if I don't, I get about 100 emails a day.
Wow.
You know, some stuff is just spam that comes through, and then but I get a lot of newsletters. I get several newsletters from the IRS. I get some from the AICPA. I get some from the Arizona Society of CPAs. And I get some from the various tax vendors that I work with, so.
And they all have good information.
They have a lot of information, so I give a quick skim to them, and, you know, and I save them so I can go back through them, read them later when I have more time. But yeah, the first thing I do every morning is there and delete about 30 emails.
You know, a lot of people, people that they don't want to deal with doing their taxes, okay? There's a lot of people that do that. Can you help people like that?
Yes, I've helped some people catch up. I had one guy that hadn't filed for several years, and he was anxious to file last tax season because he knew it was the final deadline. I think it was the 2021 returns, and we did it before the deadline so he could get his refund.
So after not paying or doing his taxes for several years,
He was still able to get a refund, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the rule of thumb is 3 years after the date that the original return had to be filed. So, you know, so usually they're done in the second year, so,
I wonder why some people do that then, especially if they're gonna get a refund.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh, he had a death in the family,
Oh.
so, anyway.
So welcome back, everyone. We're talking with Anna Von Straussenburg, and she's the owner of Anna Von Straussenberg CPA. If you're looking to get a CPA to do your taxes, Anna is the one that you want to call. Number one, congratulations. We were just talking about how yet you were just nominated again for the Ethics Awards through BBB. Let me tell you how hard that is for people to get. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited because to me that is like the cherry on the top of the ice cream sundae.
Absolutely.
You know, it's because that's what I'm all about. I've just made it my goal in life to be very ethical. My former employer, who, you know, I bought the business from him, and I remember him saying, he goes, no client is worth risking your license for. If they're asking you to do something unethical, just show them the door. And that wasn't just words, because he had a client that did that asked for something unethical, and he just politely said to the guy, said, well, I'm gonna give you back your stuff, go take it someplace else, because I'm not gonna do that.
Well, let me tell you something else about Anna. She also loves to do complicated returns.
Oh, yes, I do. You know, I just think it's a lot of fun, and just as a result of the experience I've gotten, I had a client that was an architect, and they were doing business all over the United States and even in Canada. And so I got to know all kinds of different tax laws, because every state's different. And I used to find that very interesting to do. Lately, we've somehow getting a lot of Canadian tax clients, you know, who have to also report here. And as things worked out, one of my employees has come from Canada, and she's actually working on getting her citizenship, but she knows the Canadian tax law, and she knows the cross-border rules because she's having to live it herself. So we've been helping some of our Canadian clients, you know, navigate that, because it's a little bit tricky sometimes.
So let's talk a little bit about spammy scammy.
Well, that's something, yeah, I just saw a newsletter from the IRS. It said the dirty dozen. And some of them are kind of similar. They're talking about a lot about phishing schemes. And, and those happen everywhere, not just the IRS, but, they're phishing schemes that come from people pretending to be your bank or your credit card or what have you. Phishing schemes are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And, they say, oh, here, click on this link. Don't do it. Do not click on the link. Go log in to, if it's your bank, go log into your bank account. Most of us have an app on our phone. We can log in and see if that notification is real or not real.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you click on the link and they start asking you for your personal information, or even just typing in your username and password, well, oops, they just got a whole bunch of stuff that they could go steal from you.
Mm-hmm.
So, don't do it. The other thing that they mention in the Dirty Dozen that really caught my eye is that there's a lot of false information out there on social media. And I get calls all the time, well, I hear they're gonna eliminate taxes altogether. And I'm like,
Okay.
no,
I wish.
no, I wish, but, I still have my job because they have not done that. And, I said that's really wishful thinking on some people's part, but I said there's too many things that they need to have the tax money for, and don't believe everything you hear on the internet. So, and especially these days because there's so much even fake stuff. I mean,
That looks real.
That looks real. All this
Yeah.
AI. Yeah, and no, cats don't walk around like humans. but you can't, some things are so obvious, but there are some things that are just not that obvious. So if you have a question about it, come to somebody like me that is constantly being informed about the new tax laws and the new situation.
Well, it sounds like there's the Dirty Dozen. There's got to be more than two. It sounds like there's a lot.
Yeah, they're all kind of, a lot of them are similar. Oh, I know one. The IRS will almost never call you. If you get a call from the IRS, that means you've probably gotten dozens of notices, because before they'll ever call you, they will send out many snail mail letters. And they won't send emails, they will only send snail mail, and they will send you, before they get to the point of calling you, they will have sent you dozens of them.
Yeah.
Because
You know
they-
you're in
they-
trouble
they
if you're getting a call
Yeah,
from the
you know
IRS.
you're in trouble, and if you're getting a call from the IRS, you better contact somebody like me, because you're in big trouble. I have had some clients that did get a call but those were revenue agents, and revenue agents are not the same as an IRS agent. A revenue agent's the one who's going after you for criminal. So if you're that bad, somebody that, hadn't filed taxes in several years and had ignored all the notices, and they got in some big trouble, but I was actually able to get them out of trouble.
Her phone number to
Yeah.
call is 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. Go ahead.
Well, I want to say one thing too, is a lot of clients who may not have a real big problem, but they have a problem that they need to have, reach out to the IRS. I suggest that somebody like me does it, because I'm, not emotionally involved. And yesterday, I called the IRS and I was able to get them to waive some penalties for a client. It saved her over $700, almost $800 in penalties and interest, just because I reached out to the IRS and explained the situation, and it was very easy to do.
Too many
Yeah.
people who call themselves or do anything themselves, they're emotionally involved, they talk too much.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, you don't want to tell them too much, you don't want to tell them too little, and above all, you don't want to yell at them. And when people are emotionally involved, they if the agent says something they don't like, they might get excited. They might not really be intending to raise their voice, but when you're talking about your money, people are very sensitive. So I always say it's better to have a CPA do it. I'm really good at making those phone calls. I talked to an agent yesterday and we resolved a couple of problems and it was very, very nice and it worked well, so.
Check her out on her website. It's ArizonaCPAs.com. The phone number is 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. You do free consultations, and I tell anyone, especially when it comes to if you have any problems with, maybe your taxes you haven't done in a while, she's the one to call.
Yeah, and I also like to really look at my business returns. I'd like to look at them a couple times a year. 3 times would be ideal, so that I can get an idea of what they're gonna owe and tell them, say, hey, maybe we need to do some tax planning in advance. And even for individuals, a lot of my individual clients come to me and say, well, let's do some planning. And I have some strategies that will reduce their tax liability. I had one person that likes to donate a lot, but they weren't getting enough to itemize, and I said, well, why don't you do this? Instead of donating in December to this charitable organization, why don't you make your December one in January, and then in December make your second one, so that you get them bundled up into 1 year.
The other thing that I want to say about you is that you really like people to understand their numbers. When they understand their numbers, that's when they can grow their business.
Yeah, that's exactly true. I had a client that was losing money, and part of it was because they weren't tracking their inventory properly. So when we got them fixing that, he could see where he needed to make changes and do that. So, and one more, the talking about the charities reminded me of one of the other Dirty Dozen. Be careful when you're donating to charities that you make sure that they are legitimate charities. And also, if you donate to a GoFundMe page, most of the time those are not charitable donations. Unless it's sponsored by a charitable, organization, most of the times GoFundMe is not deductible.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to do anything, make sure that you know that it's legit. That's the first thing, right? Yeah. What are your final words today?
Well, my final words is, hey, we're coming down to the wire, so don't procrastinate, don't hesitate, don't be late, get your stuff in.
It's her phone number again. It's 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. She'll do a free consultation for you. She's rated with the Better Business Bureau. She does second opinions, and she's nationwide. Again, that number is 480-964-4030. Check her out on her website. It's ArizonaCPAs.com.